Conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the December 4th, 2025 North Front Range Transportation Air Quality Planning Council. Item 1, if you can or able, will you please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, has anybody ever seen the Christmas vacation?
Yeah.
And they go out there and Santa Claus goes up and she starts singing. So after the pledge, I want to hear what they say. Play ball. They said years I had to do this. All right, item number 2, public comments. Anyone in the audience will be given time to speak to an item on the consent agenda. Please ask for that item to be removed from the consent agenda. Items pulled will be heard at the beginning of the regular agenda. Members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak to all other items prior to council actions being heard. Anybody want to pull anything on the agenda in the audience? All right, council member announcements. Anybody got any exciting news? Go for it.
I just want to remind everybody that a week from Saturday, 2 o'clock, Oak Street Plaza, yours truly will be conducting tuba Christmas concert.
Yeah. All right. Congratulations.
Yeah. 20th anniversary this year of tuba Christmas concert.
So have you been conducting it for 20 years?
I have.
You're retired teacher, right?
Yeah.
Where's that?
Oak Street Plaza, downtown Fort Collins. I guarantee you will enjoy it immensely.
It's very good.
It's all Christmas music and it's all tubas. And I guarantee you'll never hear something like that again.
Anyone else have anything?
The tops that.
Amazing man he is. One of the things, thing. So everybody, our executive director would like to remind us, here's the code. It's the Northern Colorado Freight Stakeholder Survey. Please use your phones. Get it while you're in the audience or not listening to me. Take that and get that survey.
My phone, if I was in the Philippines away, reading around it.
What the hell?
GPS, man, I swear.
Right.
I believe Mayor McFall, the new Loveland mayor, will be joining us remotely later in the agenda. So just wanted to, he's not on yet.
But. Anything else? Item 3. Move on to item number 4. Air quality conformity for the 2026-2029 Transportation Improvement Program TIP and the 2020-2050 Regional Transportation RTP Amendment. Mrs. Becky.
Thank you.
My last one, we have a little bit.
So the purpose of this public hearing is to notify the public and receive input on air quality conformity determinations for the North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization region and a portion of the Upper Front Range Transportation Planning region within the northern sub-area of the Denver North Front Range, Denver Metro North Front Range 8 hours and unattained area. Conformity determinations are completed for the northern sub-area, which includes Fort Collins and the three carbon monoxide or CO maintenance areas, and the 8 hours and unattained area now, due to the adoption of, or soon to be adoption of the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan Amendment or RTP Amendment, and the new fiscal year 2026-2029 Transportation Improvement Program or TIP. The North Front Range MPO is required to return conformity on the TIP and the RTP with federal and state air quality laws and regulations before federal aid transportation projects may proceed. The Federal Highway Administration, the Federal Transit Administration, and the EPA must concur with the MPO's conformity determination. The regional emissions analysis for the FY 26-29 TIP and the 2050 RTP amendment demonstrate conformity with the northern sub-area budgets established for both the 2018 8 hours and unattainment in 2015, ozone National Ambient Air Quality Standards or NAAQS, as well as northern sub-area budgets established for the 2008 AR ordinance. The FY 26, 29 TIP and 2050 RDP amendment meet all conformity criteria as identified in Title 40 of the Code of Federal Organizations, or CFR, Section 93.109. Criteria and procedures for determining conformity of transportation plans, programs, and projects, and meets all planning requirements identified in 23 CFR 450, which is the planning systems and standards. This conformity determination was deemed to be routine and does not require the Air Quality Control Commission or AGCC concurrence. No public comment was received on the conformity determination document during the public comment period, which opened on October 6th and closed on November 4th. And I'm happy to take any questions about this.
Would you say, Councilman? After? You're happy to take questions?
Now,
Okay.
yes.
I see no questions, so I'll open it up. We will now open the public hearing for the air quality conformity determination for the Denver Metro North Front Range and 8 hours ozone non-attainment air and Fort Collins carbon monoxide maintenance area. We will start with a brief presentation. I think that was supposed to be first.
Thank you for your brief presentation.
Betsy, you're going to have to do that again.
What the heck? I didn't.
No.
Okay, the planning council will now take public comment on the item. Please limit your comments to no more than 2 minutes. You will also provide a copy of the written comments if you have them with you. Any comments? Any public comments online or in the room? Sir, would you like to make a comment? Okay. All right, is there anybody online? Let me see the hands raising. All right, we'll close public comments and be looking for a motion.
Isn't it part of the consent agenda?
It is.
Yeah.
Just want us to run the whole consent
Yeah.
agenda?
There you go.
I move adoption of the, or approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a first, got a second, any discussion? I see no discussion. All in favor, please by signal by aye.
Aye.
Close same sign. Carries. All right, we're done with 4. Moving on to number 5. Air Pollution Control Division, APCD, written report, in the handout. Item 6, North Front Range NPO Air Quality Program updates, written on page 53. Regional Air Quality Council RAC. Commissioner.
Yes, we have a retreat on November 7th for the RAC. The blueprint was approved by the board, as folks know, there's not a ton of detail, and that there's going to be more detail added to the blueprint, so I think that will be another vote on the blueprint as it takes shape, probably sometime next year. Did add the concerns that we have about cost to consumers, especially with regard to, you know, some of the additional requirements around, you know, cars and having the emissions tests done more often. But we will, you know, continue those conversations as we move on, as the blueprint kind of gets fleshed out. We'll see if there's any other, you know, suggested control strategies that, you know, we want to weigh in on.
Good. Any questions? Comments? Okay, moving on. Number 8, unintended area air pollution. Commissioner.
We met today. We approved our annual report, which included all the grants, the small grants that we got out to a lot of communities that are here and other communities in the Denver metro area. Next year, we will start discussing the larger grants, which will likely go to bus rapid transit, the premium transit kind of. And so we'll start really discussing that grant program starting in March. And then we just had our board training for legal stuff, you know, what you can do, what you know, what it means before, what, you know, all that good stuff. So the AG's office provided that board training, and that was it.
Questions, comments? All right, thank you. We're going to move on to planning organization agenda reports from chair. I don't know if anybody's in tune, but there's a group of people, I can't remember the name of it. Maybe somebody can remember. They're looking to run a ballot initiative in 26 for transportation. The ballot initiative, it's CCA, but there's a name of their committee, and I don't know what it is. But they're running it to put a tax on all vehicle parts, all things that go, like if you buy windshield wipers, you pay an extra little tax. If you buy tires, you pay a tax. If you get a car repair, you pay an extra little tax. So they're looking at in 26. It started going after the enterprises, and they pulled it away from the enterprises, and they put it just for that. It all going to HUTF. It'll be a 60-40 split, is the last I heard. So the 40% would still go to the locals. They think it's going to raise anywhere between $600 and $800 million a year. The last polling numbers I saw was 72% positive.
Taxing auto parts.
Yeah. So everything auto, body shops,
What kind of percentage?
Anything.
72% is the last poll we did, but he said it drops 10 points or so at 60.
Percentage. What comes to the tax?
Guys, what I was telling you, what I was going to say is we might want to get somebody to come up with this presentation.
Sure, yeah.
Because I don't know enough, I just know
Legislature? Or is it from a third party?
third party going to the ballot.
Yeah, I'd like to know more than whatever we think you just made. Yeah.
From an authoritative source. I'm just telling you, there's a ballot initiative, the title passed. They're going to start. Yeah, they're going to start raising. I have not read it. I just know what they're doing. Yeah.
It's interesting between you can take into gas and EV cars.
Barely.
Yeah. So instead of the gas tax, it's
Right. And it's 100% transportation. So yeah, it is.
Contractors?
Yeah, CCA. There's a name of their committee, I just can't remember it. But CCA, Tony and Tom Peterson from Kappa and another, they all came together, the freight Carriers Association, GMA is involved. There's a lot of transportation people involved. Okay. So
Yeah, we're doing that too. We got some.
yes, I do. Somebody better than me. But actually, those about it. Yeah, I'll send an email to you and you probably reach out and then get them up here.
This article says, diverting 2/3 of state sales tax revenue generated from autos related sales, vehicles, auto parts and tires, 2/3.
So not a new tax or road tax.
It's just.
Bringing it in. Okay. Now I'm more curious.
I thought you'd just be curious that someone was running a ballot. I didn't realize I was going to get an hour. I'm not an expert at everything.
Other than transferring money out of the newly formed enterprises into the state highway. fund, or 100 million.
Well,
I don't know. No, I'm just reading it.
Probably.
yeah, all better prices. This is not something new. This has been something that's been talked about.
I don't know if the titles are passed on it.
I think there'll be some issues with legal, because an enterprise, as you all know, you can't, as an example, your water enterprise has to be, it has to be used for water. And if you've got, if you're doing your fee as an enterprise, it's got to be used for what you collect.
And I don't, last I heard, they eliminated the enterprises. They were going to go after them.
Oh, they want to
This article is from October, so.
Yeah, no, I think they had two titles, and they went with the one that doesn't go after the enterprises. Probably because their legal counsel probably advised them.
well, diverting sales tax, I'm curious. I'm sorry, I said diverting sales tax, I'm curious, but the enterprises, yeah. Could happen. Well, diverting money from enterprise is pretty, it creates so many problems. That's why it hasn't been done yet. Because not only does it, anytime you divert money from an enterprise, even using the water again, you divert money from your water into your general fund, you have a take ratio. And so you know, there's complications here that maybe if they,
I think
they found out. They couldn't do that. Okay.
I'm not, I heard it wasn't part of going after the commercials. See, I'm better than that. I didn't get close. That's old data. Not false, that's old. Okay, I'm gonna move on from that topic. I feel like I tried something good. Turn it into a quick back there.
That's it. Sorry, Mr. Chair, but it would behoove us to have somebody come up.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'll get
So we
someone
get
here.
a true state.
Yeah. Well, because they're gonna be doing probably huge campaigns on it, and locals are gonna benefit, state's gonna benefit, so it's gotta be sort of discussed. It's having intelligent people that know what they're talking about. Okay. No, no. That was old. Might have been not fake, but.
No, you're just an hour away from your last.
You may be aware that EPA has officially published the Maricopa Association of Governments, we refer to as MAG, their 17090 analysis, and the impact, which is the result of the impact of international emissions on ozone concentrations in the Phoenix region's non-attainment area. So EPA is proposing to determine that the region would have attained the 2015 moderate ozone standard +4 emissions coming from outside of the U.S. So the question, because it is officially in the register for public comment, the ask from the Intermountain West Group is for our agency to provide comments to EPA in support of the EPA's action, given how essentially all the regions across the Intermountain West have been impacted by the same dynamic at varying degrees. So the technical group that participates meets December 9th, but I know that the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments is going to be submitting public comment, and they had asked me to speak with you guys this evening if that is this council's wish to do as well.
Discussion, Commissioner? James?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, County's done significant amount of work on this, and I'd like to recognize Dr. Anna Morales. Dr. Morales works for Well County. She's our air quality specialist. And I'm going to put you on the spot there, full mouth on all there. And if you would be kind and elaborate a little bit on what the work that you and Ed Conroy, who was one of our county attorneys, are doing, because I think it's significant. I think that this, I'll just show my cards. This NPO needs to support the efforts of Maricopa County. But Anna, you can, in a scientific way, elaborate, please.
I'll try to avoid too much science. So I'm part of the IMW technical group, and we meet often monthly to discuss the chemistry of ozone and how it's so complicated. What really is, we're seeing the concerning amount of the ozone out of our control, and a lot of the from outside of the representative state, or even the country. And so the 179B, I guess regulatory relief is something that Utah and Arizona are pushing forward because it uses the latest scientific data, modeling, monitoring everything to truly understand what is contributing to the ozone in that particular non-attainment area, and just give relief to ratcheting up the non-attainment status. And we are very much in support, and by we I mean, I guess, Will County, in support
We are.
we're in support of this decision by the EPA,
And we're planning to write a comment letter in support as well. So it would be really helpful for all of us to, I guess, speak as a union, as a group of MPOs and local governments to encourage the EPA to control this decision.
Thank you. I'll be a bit more pointed in my comments. We have been flawed for some time over air that we have no impact over. And really, is it 40 parts per billion that is transport that is non-native in our region?
According to the latest RACS modeling, it was about 55 ppb. That's from background or natural.
Out of 70 is the attainment level.
Yes, it gets kind of, the numbers get messy, so let's just say 75%.
Okay. 75. So bottom line is 50. No, 55. Yeah, 75%. 55 parts per billion of the 70 parts per billion that is the number are out of our control. Right? And yet we've been regulated to death on something that we simply cannot control.
And Carol said that no matter what we would do, if we went 100% electric buses, if you were 100%, no vehicle, take your car off the road, it would still be nothing. Well, from my social said that to me. I asked him the question.
So we have watched for a couple of years now. In fact, since that asked, I participated in this Intermountain West work group, but I realized that it was far too dumb. So we put Dr. Morales and Matt, our county attorney in this work group. They've done some amazing work. Well, County is fully supportive of the efforts that Maricopa County are undertaking, and I believe it's important that this NPO speak up and support another NPO on something that could be literally groundbreaking for all the NPOs in the Intermountain West that have the same kind of atmosphere that we struggle with here. We can't help that God put us at 4,800 to 5,000 foot. We can't help that we have the atmospheres that we have, and we can't help that there are 55 parts per billion of those 70 parts per billion that are not from here. And so that is the statement that I am asking this board sign on to. Is there a letter in the packet?
No, I didn't.
You didn't try to.
I didn't want to make any assumptions.
Before we go much further, I want to ask if anybody else has comments. I'm sure there's other comments.
Yeah, I do. So one of the statements, I mean, my understanding is some of that 55 is coming from perhaps outside of the country, but certainly outside of the Phoenix area or our area. But part of it is also natural.
There's your extra rent.
Well, right. So there's a component that comes out of the ground through natural trees.
Pine trees. We're one of the largest emitters in our
Right. So just for clarity, there's two components outside of our control. There's the natural component and then the non-native. Imported or non-native. So I'm in favor of, personally, in favor of supporting the Maricopa position. And more importantly, if it is approved by EPA, how do we get on board with that?
Well,
with a similar kind of consideration.
Dr. Brown, please.
So, the money and support from the governor's office and CPG. I think there's at the ozone SIP rulemaking hearing, there was a lot of support from the Colorado Chamber pushing for this, and also some of the industry, oil and gas industry partners, and us. So there's a lot of support for this happening, but we need to get something in.
Yeah. Bottom line is the decision must be made by the lead air quality planning agency in the state, which is A2CC, and that they will take their orders from the governor, essentially. And so our efforts are with the governor, but I believe that this NPO should support the efforts of Maricopa County because have they been granted the 179? And rather they have not. This,
right now.
This is in the public comment right now.
So that's where we're at. EPA is posted it. You can make comment and go to the register and see everything that they provided. I will just remind you guys that a 179B is a timing thing. It's essentially, it doesn't mean that your entertainment, if you are successful, it doesn't mean you're not going to have to recertify. So it is a timing issue, and they went back to, I think they went back to the previous years. The questions, there's two different questions. Do you go back to, former, or do you go to look ahead? And so the reason the state hasn't done it in the past is it's a lot of work for staff, and they sit there and they say, okay, would we reach attainment if we did this? And so we haven't really gone through where we have the data. I felt like for looking at the international contributions as part of how they've been breaking it down through the source apportionment levels. And so I think part of the ask when you're sitting, on the RAC board is, are we getting the right data for source apportionment? Just for example, the Fort Collins monitor, you sit there and you look at it, and it's got a background ozone issue that we're not going to be able to reach. And all the precursors and all the permitting and everything that's gone through is showing that our numbers are going down, but our ozone isn't correlating. And so it's that background that we're trying to get to in understanding of what is that level of, is it realistic that the governor is going to go back so far to turn back previous, serious, what was those? Yeah, SIP ones, or can we maintain the current level without increasing the next? And so I think the one thing that's super exciting about the MAG 179B is we haven't really had a 179B that had like everything in the kitchen sink included. That's what's exciting about this one. Usually it's but for wildfires, but we're on.
The 179B was strictly at one point just for international. And then it looked like in reading the Maricopa information that they were including other things like topography and
atmosphere and right and things that we can't control. Yeah, and that's
the Intermountain West Work Group is we all have common adversaries. These are MPOs of now basically the Rocky Mountain West. And
I guess for me, I still have, it's not healthy. Those high numbers aren't healthy, and I hate the idea that we're sort of giving up on this. Yet I do want to not put in place things that aren't going to work. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't want to, give up on some of the stuff we've done thus far, to be honest, because then it's going to get even worse.
But you have to regulate somebody out of a cost of living, to regulate somebody out of their ability to live here, to operate a business here, to be granted business expansion here, because of something that they cannot affect, is to me implausible. I don't understand why we do that.
Well, I guess it would be nice, because it is not great, but if we could, instead of continuing to throw time, money, and energy at what is not working, support this, and then support what else could we be doing, so that we aren't just giving up on something. We're coming up with, let's just stop throwing stuff at this, and so I say, let's support them, and hope that we can move forward with that, so we can find a better solution.
So the idea is who are we writing to support your
EPA.
The EPA. So I thought they were already done good with the EPA.
It's closed for public comment right now, and then the EPA will make their formal.
Oh, I thought they had. I guess maybe I read.
Yeah. No, they're only at public comment right now, so we have December 19th to submit comments. That's why I wanted to bring it to you guys. Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments is taking into their board next week. I anticipate they will provide public comment or submit comments supporting the 179B.
We consider this okay. I'm going to ask.
Mr. Chair, I would offer a formal motion that we instruct our executive director to draft a letter in support of the Maricopa County offers. And I don't know how we do that round robin by email because we've got a September 19th deadline. What's the best way to get it through the planning council? Just email, do you think? And then
motion.
Second.
We got a motion in 2 seconds. Any more discussion? I think this is where we're talking. I think we have it. The question we always have is, does everybody want to sign on, or do you just want the chair to sign it?
I wouldn't be fine with the chair signing.
I probably would sign on it, and I probably won't vote for it. And it's not because I don't hear what everybody's saying in this room, and I do understand that regulating things that aren't gonna work is not a good idea. I would like us to try to find things that might work though, and I don't think it's good to like abandon that whole process, and that, so I just want people to understand why I would be voting no, and why I understand why you're voting yes, and I do hear what you're saying, right, but I also know that there's health complications that happen because of these high numbers, and if we could really get to some control strategies that we know would actually work, or somebody, the government, or the federal government, or somebody could help us really define strategies that work, I think those would be worth trying to get employed. And so that's where I sit.
My suggestions then to the RAC are to consider things on a percentage standpoint. For example, oil and gas industry since 2016 has decreased their emissions by 59%.
Right.
When we take a look at decreasing percentages, perhaps that's the more fair way to do things than trying to drive things below an arbitrary number, 55 parts of it, 75% of which we can't affect. It's that 25% we need to focus on, and we need to do so on a percentage basis.
No, I agree, and I don't want to regulate everything and then come back in 5 years and say, well, none of this works either. So I really would like to get to a space where we could, really figure out what actually works in this, to lower those numbers.
So when we say individually sign up, or sign on, we have.
No, I think it's in the change.
Okay, but what's it going around in an email?
Then send it so you can read it.
Oh, okay.
And if you have comment, you would submit comments, but it's gonna have to be quick.
Yeah, because I do it by December 19th, or that's what I'll be coming.
So we would close this if we all get the motion to move forward. We would ask Elizabeth to type something up with maybe the doctor, and then she would send that out immediately to the council, and if you have comments, she would send it back, then final version. I signed it, and it goes.
And Riley Boss already offered our comments on this, haven't we? So have we put together something? You can, thank you.
I already threw you in. I didn't. Dr. Al.
So, Chair, I have a question and a comment.
Go ahead.
So my question is, what is, if EPA approves 179A, what is the consequence for Maricopa?
They would basically exclude Dr. unless there's the expert.
The difference is that they will not be bumped up to the next level, so they are in moderate, they're asking for moderate. Yeah, and
They
so
wouldn't have to do so.
they won't get bumped up to next.
So they would continue to do the mitigation that they're currently doing. They're just not going to be forced to do additional mitigation at a higher level.
Or they
Or
won't
a
get
higher level of mitigation.
additional restrictions.
Right.
So like a major source is now a threshold.
Got it. Okay, and then my comment is, wouldn't it make more sense to be, instead of spending money, to your point, spending money on programs that don't work, wouldn't it make more sense to follow the science and see if you couldn't spend money on technologies that deal with the background level? For example, is there chemistry that can assist in removing ozone from the atmosphere? I don't know. I'm not a scientist in that area.
Not the part of the area that kills people already. So I don't know. I really want that.
But I think what you're saying is you can support maybe Maricopa's 179D. I think what you can also do is say things like atmosphere, the things that we know, topography. How can we help EPA focus on those types of things that we
Focus
have?
on the things that we can change and not on the things that we can't change.
Yes, exactly.
That's where we should be spending our money.
I mean, I couldn't agree with that more. I just don't want us to sort of give up the fight.
You won't.
In that.
I won't. For sure.
I don't know if I'll give up the fight, but I would definitely feel better than I'm being regulated on something that.
And you can do.
But along with that, we should be encouraging the appropriate science and funding agencies at federal, presumably at the federal level, to pursue mitigation that works, right? Things that will deal with that. If there's more background than there is anything else, why aren't we spending money on science to try to attack that?
And I would say I support Christian's position. I also wouldn't sign on, and I would vote yes. I'd like us to continue, I would hate to see the then stop programs that we know are working and making a difference, like the lawn equipment.
Yeah, and this would be money that.
Right, but it just as down the line, if you put that support. So I recognize what everyone's saying, I was saying, Bill, but I just thought that if you're both where this could lead in the future.
Right, so we have first and second, we had a great discussion. All in favor with an eye?
Aye.
All opposed? We have 2 nays. And I don't know how many yeses, but 2 nays. Okay. Moving on. You got the direction. Do you need anything else?
I'll work with him, and we'll take a stab at putting some language together to get it out to you guys as soon as possible.
And in your email, you say, if I don't have comments back by so-and-so date
No
and time,
response is an approval.
it's going on.
Okay.
Understanding there'll probably be a couple that will probably write in. Do not support, which is fine.
No, I mean, I'm still interested in what this board is putting forward, and there again, I'm not like, I understand what you're saying, and I do agree with a lot of it. So I'm almost where you're at, is what I'm saying. But I'm not quite there.
It's okay. That's what this is all about. All right, we move on. Anything else that you'd like to
I think I should just keep going. So we have 3 RFPs out right now. In case you haven't heard, we have our regional travel demand model RFP, our audit services RFP, and our IT services RFP. Our goal is to have new contracts for all of these RFPs, hopefully by the end of the year or beginning of January. Our RFP for IT services closes on January 9th, so that will be towards the end of January. So I just wanted to let you know that we are organizationally getting those. It's been 5 years, and we are federally required. In theory, we should have been. It should be done. So we're getting done. I also wanted to follow up with you guys on the office space discussion that we've had previously. I did confirm that our existing lease is February 28, 2027. I did ask Cushman and Wakefield representative to review the lease. We have no ability to get out of our lease, but what we can then start doing around June or July is Cushman and Wakefield has agreed to start looking at locations for us and helping put together essentially what we can use as a negotiation package for when our lease is up to renegotiate a new lease, or if for some reason he finds us a better rate in a different location that fits our organization's needs, we could we have options. So
I would say one of the things that I think would benefit greatly in Norfolk Ranch is if it was around 34 I-25.
You mean Johnstown?
34 I-25. I love them too. We might annex all the time. You never know.
I would just say the city of Fort Collins has been a great partner for
Oh,
our
yeah,
organization,
they
for
always have.
our health benefits as an organization, and I think that has been one of also the priorities for the
And that's
organization.
okay too. I'm just saying if we do, because it's more centrally located for all communities.
I-25 in Harmony, I mean, that's
Still-
still Fort Collins, at least from a benefit perspective. They have really great benefits.
I don't
City of Fort Collins.
disagree with the benefit aspect.
I don't either.
Yeah, that can be hard. That's
I don't either.
Okay, and then lastly, I just wanted to let you know that we did as a staff meet on November 18th. We had a great deep dive as an organization. I was super, impressed with staff and their participation and comments and ideas and thoughts about things we can start working on. So Chris LeMay facilitated it for our organization, and he's put together somewhat of a summary, and we're going through that and going to refine it in probably in January, come back with maybe some strategic plan goals for you for the council to see that we can have for internally and externally for the organization. So I will be meeting with staff next week to talk about it.
Any questions for the executive director? All right, moving on. Item 11, Finance Committee, it's written on page 66. Item 12, TAC written 68. Item 13, Mobility written handouts. Any questions on any of those comments, concerns? All right, let's go into presentations. Thank you, Mark, for presentation. Kate Watkins.
Kate.
I thought she was here. Sorry.
All right. Stand up here.
Yeah. You move around, you do everything.
She's already shocked about county. She's already shocked us here. Guys, see you.
Good to see you. And then this clicker works?
I guess, and we'll see.
Yeah, all right. Wonderful. I would like to Watkins, I'm the state marker, and great to be with you up north today. I grew up in London, Colorado, so it's exciting to be almost home. And today I'd like to share our latest and greatest when it comes to population estimates and projections. We've just released an update about a month ago, so this is kind of fresh off the presses. And for those of you who aren't familiar, the state market office produces population estimates and projections for every county in the state. We don't produce projections by municipality. If you're interested in that, we're work with you to show you how we might go about doing that. So what I will be showing today is at county level. So just want to make that disclaimer first, right off the get-go. So a couple of key dynamics and trends that I want to acknowledge right off the bat. First, that there's this inherent interplay between people and the economy. When we're talking about jobs, we're actually talking about humans, and so that's certainly a part of it. But also when we're even thinking about supply and demand for goods and services, the industry, it's people demanding those goods and services, and also people supplying them. And additionally, what we've been seeing and kind of key theme that you'll see throughout the presentation is this emerging dynamic not only between people and jobs, but people, jobs, and housing, in particular affordable housing. So I'll plant that seed now and go into more detail here in a minute. A couple of key high-level trends that we're seeing, not just here in Colorado, but across the globe. First, our fertility rates are lower than they have been historically. That means fewer births. We're aging, which means more deaths, and the combination of those two factors result in slower population growth. Additionally, we have fewer births, more deaths. That makes net migration more consequential for population growth. And finally, we're increasingly more diverse. Our younger populations are more diverse when it comes to race and ethnicity, and so simply by aging, we become a more diverse society and economy. So again, key trends that we're seeing not only in Colorado, but across the U.S. and across the globe. And I want to kind of provide a bit of a backdrop for the presentation, and it's really all about fertility rates. So snapshot in time, the year 2023, any country in pink is below the replacement rate of 2.1 births per woman. What that means is over the course of multiple generations, all the countries in pink, their populations would decline if not for international migration. So the outliers here, not the outliers, the ones bucking that trend would be Europe, Sub-Saharan Africa, portions of the Middle East, and portions of Southeast Asia. Otherwise, across the globe, we're already below the replacement rate. North America is 1.6 births per woman, Colorado 1.5. So I mentioned this, and then it sets the stage for some of the trends that we're seeing and some of the reasons why we've recently downgraded our population projection expectations, in that these fertility rates have continued to fall below what anyone thought that they would fall to, and we keep getting surprised on the downside. All right, so I've already alluded to a downgrade in our population projections, and I want to show those up front. So here are our projections for the total population. The B 2023 or vintage 2023. Those are our projections from last year. B 2024 is our latest and greatest. And in both instances, downgraded by 35,900, roughly for Larimer County, 49,300 for Wilkes County. Comparing that to, say, a town population, we could take the town of Severance, the town of Berthoud, both roughly around 11,000, so 3 or 4 times that population. So significant downgrades when we're thinking about what that actually means for population growth. You'll also notice that we're sort of shifting into a lower here, both for Larimer and Will County relative to the historical trends. That said, still quite a bit of growth expected. All right, so when we're talking about population growth, even in the northern Front Range region, a lot of the people coming here are coming from other areas of the state or even other areas of the country. So the population growth that's happening statewide or nationally certainly matters for the northern Front Range region. So I wanted to show projected population growth rates for these two geographies. In that, historically, we've seen higher population growth, and we're expecting a slowdown moving into the future. But also, Colorado is expected to continue to outpace the nation. But that's not a guarantee. And so, again, when we sort of set the stage, talk about some of the downside risks to population projections, part of the reason why I don't think it's guaranteed is housing affordability. Colorado being more pricey than other areas. We can layer on Weld and Larimer County, and Weld there in orange, strongest growth expected, has seen the strongest growth of the, at least dating back to 1990. Larimer County largely matching what's happening with statewide trends when it comes to annual percent change in population. When we're talking about population change, we're really only talking about a couple of things. It's births and deaths. So births minus deaths, natural change, and our ins minus our outs, or our net migration. So this chart, one of my favorite charts, shows all of these components at once. And what you can see is that natural change, our births minus our deaths, it's been a stronger contributor to growth than what we're expecting it to be moving forward. Again, because we're having fewer kids, and more of us are dying because we are aging. We're now projecting, this is the first time that we have this happen within our forecast horizon, we're now projecting natural decline within our forecast horizon. So expecting deaths to exceed births in 2047. So we can compare that to the expectations for the nation as a whole, which is in just 6 years, deaths will exceed births nationally in 2031. When that happens, the only way the population grows is through net migration. Historically, Colorado's net migration has been very much tied to the business cycle. You can see this looking at the net out-migration in the late 1980s, that was the oil and gas bust recessionary period. We can look to the dot-com recession in the early 2000s, very weak migration to the state. We can look at the COVID pandemic recession in 2020, very weak migration. But what the trend was the Great Recession, where a lot of millennials in particular were coming into the state of Colorado. That was also a time, believe it or not, Colorado was relatively affordable when it came to the housing market. Looking into the future, we're expecting the next couple of years to have really quite weak net migration. And that's not a few different trends. One is immigration policy, putting downward pressure on that international migration. We've also seen a slowdown in jobs growth. So again, the net migration, the business cycle, expecting that to dampen both international and domestic net migration to Colorado. We expect sort of a resumption of growth, getting back up to the long run average levels of net migration over the long run. So getting back to up to about 40,000 people per year. Again, a lot of downside risk possible here because we're competing with other states for talent, for jobs, and given Colorado's relative housing affordability, or lack thereof, we might see folks going to other states instead of Colorado. If we look to Larimer County, different pattern here, and I'll show you Weld counties after this. Not so much tied to the business cycle, instead over time, consistent, really healthy levels of net migration to the area. When it comes to natural change, expecting deaths to exceed births much sooner than what we're expecting statewide. So just in a couple of years from now, I'm expecting to see that changeover, where we have more deaths than births in this particular region, posing a kind of a slowing factor or drag on population growth. When it comes to Weld County has a younger population, so we're not expecting that quite as much of that same kind of drag or weighing down like this natural change. So expecting births to continue to exceed deaths throughout the forecast period. When it comes to net migration, very healthy levels expected. Again, not a guarantee that we'll see such elevated levels of net migration to the area. So digging in a little bit to these components, growth stats, and then we'll get to net migration. Here's the breakout. When it comes to deaths, here's where we can see our aging population at play. So growing number of deaths because we are a growing number of older people over time. So that's the story there. Laramie County has been seeing a decline in the level over the last decade or two. This is consistent with statewide trends where in 2007, that's when we saw peak births, and since then they've been falling off. We do expect a leveling off of births in Larimer and statewide, and then eventually growth, though that growth is driven by net migration to the area. So the assumption that younger folks will come to the state and to the region, start families, and that will drive up some of those births, that growth level. We can see a similar trend, but it's stronger for Weld County. Again, if that migration doesn't transpire, then we wouldn't see births in either county. So talking about net migration now. Statewide, Colorado is really good at bringing in 20 and 30 somethings to the state. It's an attractive place to be, lots of job opportunities. And this pattern, here shown at net migration over the period of 2010 to 2020, has persisted over time. We have been seeing a little bit of net out migration of the 60+ year old population, but largely our ins are balancing out the outs. So that's the state as a whole. When it comes to Larimer County, we can definitely see our influx of the college age population to CSU. Some of those folks leaving the state on net in their 30s, and then for our older age cohorts, a bit more ins than outs. And finally, Weld County, really across the board, you're seeing growth, but in particular, our under 40s are seeing the strongest growth when it comes to migration. We can see a bit of a family component here, where our school age population and those in their 30s producing the most growth to the Weld County area. All right. So putting all these components together, first deaths, net migration. Here's a 10-year outlook for the state by county. And think of this as a heat map: yellow, orange, red growth, anything in blue a decline. And Weld among the strongest growth counties, in excess of 50,000 over this 10-year period projected 2024-2034. Larimer County also up there among some of the strongest growth areas. Growth largely concentrated along the front range, and the story there is the story that has been historically. That's where the jobs are. Tends to attract a lot of people to the area. All right, so I'd like to focus in a little bit on certain age cohorts and really do sort of a bit of a deep dive on age. And age matters for a number of different reasons. And here are a couple. One, as we age and more and more of us age into retirement age, that means lower labor force participation, which could mean more competition for labor, not only within the state, but with other states. Secondly, we'll see shifts in demand for goods and services as we age. The needs and wants of our older populations differ from needs and wants of our younger populations. So as a larger share of the population, which is say 65+, our economies will evolve. Third, supply and demand for housing, even wrapped up with aging or age. We are in a period of time where we're coming out of a period of time of peak growth in demand. So when it comes to household formation, or kind of striking out on your own, moving out of your parents' basements, moving out of a roommate situation, growth in that particular population, 25 to 40-year-olds, has been very, very strong recently. It's that demand is easing a little bit, but at the same time, we have our older adult population aging in place. For those 65+, 94% stay in their home year after year, or in any given year. What that means is not a lot of churn in the housing market as more and more of us move into those older age cohorts. This is something that we see not only in Colorado, but across the board. When we buy a home in our older years, we tend to want to stay put. Lastly, aging can put downward pressure on our government revenue sources, state, federal, and local. And when it comes in particular to our Medicaid expenditures, can put some upward pressures on expenditures. So when it comes to kind of government fiscal policies, these are some dynamics as well to keep in mind. So what is the age distribution of Larimer County? Here we are, single year of age, the number of people within any given single year of age, and broken down as well by generation. If you go to that QR code there, it'll take you to this visual an animation. You can go back to 1990, play it forward through our projection period 2060, and it's pretty interesting to see how Larimer County has evolved, and Will County will show next. You can look at the state, you can look at specific counties, but pretty fascinating, the evolution. And why this matters is that our age composition dictates, again, supply and demand within our economy, lots of different implications for age. And when it comes to Larimer County, again, seeing a very strong showing of our college age population. When it comes to Weld County, we don't see that spike in the college age. Instead, we see a younger population. So the 40 and under making up certainly some of the biggest shares or contingents of the population. Again, I encourage you to kind of take a peek at the QR code and see how these play out. For both Larimer and Weld and statewide, if you were to play this out, you, across at least the state and Larimer County, you don't see a lot of growth in your school age population. You see a fairly healthy amount of growth in the working age population, but again, that's contingent upon net migration. And you see a lot of growth in your 65+ population. And that's not contingent upon net migration, that's us just aging in place. So I want to dig in a little bit to each of those cohorts, those age cohorts. But first, mention this. I already alluded to how age has implications for our tax base and also our economy. And here's why. Here's some charts that can tell the story. When it comes to our income tax, our consumer spending, and our sales tax, each one tends to peak in our 40s and 50s and then fall off as we move into retirement. So thinking about more and more of the population moving into retirement age, that puts down the pressure on our tax base, both on the sales tax side of things and the income tax side of things. Also, with more and more of us moving into the 65+ or beyond age cohort, our needs and our wants, what we spend our money on, will evolve. So another component to think about moving into the future. So focusing on a couple of different age cohorts. Here we're showing those most likely to work, those aged 25 to 54. And so these are the levels, the number of people within those cohorts. Anything beyond 2024 forecast. So highlighting here our estimate in 24 and before that would be an estimate in beyond forecast. So good news for both Larimer and Will County. Those most likely to work, those populations projected to grow into the future. But again, that caveat of this is contingent upon healthy levels of net migration coming into the state. So those 20, 30, 40 somethings, 50 somethings coming into the area and pursuing work. In addition to those already here. Looking at the age 65+ population, we see much more rapid growth. Again, the reason wants of our population will change as we age, and these dynamics largely reflect us aging in place, and then 94% of those 65+ remain in the same home in a given year. I want to focus on one additional older age cohort, in that this is a cohort that I think we really need to be taking care of and thinking about. And we're just on the precipice of a really rapid growth in the population. Again, this isn't that giant influx of 80-year-olds. These are folks who are already here. So rapid growth. Why this is important is that when we reach around the age of 80, we start to need more assistance when it comes to healthcare, in-home assistance, etc. So thinking about transportation planning, thinking about getting people to doctor's appointments, getting them to grocery stores, getting them care that they might need. We're just about to see really rapid growth. This is true all across the state. And so here I'm not showing the 65+ industrial population, if I were to show you the 80 plus, it would look similar. Again, heat map, yellow, orange, red, yellow, anything blue is the decline. Largely across the state, we're seeing growth, and the highest levels of growth in our more populated areas. And so here we're showing our projections between 2020 and 2030. Well, Monroe County is in the brightest red, so lots of growth across the state. So thinking about, again, kind of transportation planning, even when it comes to healthcare services in particular, people are going to be coming really from all corners of the state and even outside of the state to get access to some of that care. So some of the demands might come from beyond the more proximate geographic regions for these healthcare services. I want to note that for the areas in decline, these are smaller population, more rural areas that largely don't have the healthcare access, and so part of the advantage that some other areas of the state do, part of that story of declines in the 65 plus year old population is an expectation of people moving out to seek care elsewhere or to find what they need elsewhere. Okay, turning to the younger end of the spectrum, or school age population, we are expecting continued growth in school age population in Weld County, again, contingent upon healthy levels of net migration, in particular families moving into the area. For Laramie County, we're expecting some ongoing declines in the school age population. Laramie County is relative to Weld County, an older population area, and so not as many school age folks, not as many people coming in as well, relative to Weld County, which has been a high growth area. All right, change in the school age population, lots of variation across the state. Many counties in decline when it comes to school age population. So if you've heard a lot about school closures, that is very much the case across many areas in the state, including much of the Denver metro area. I think that's probably all I want to say about that. Although one caveat is just if you drill down a little bit within any given county, there's a lot of variation within counties, and even within certain neighborhoods where some kind of older neighborhoods tend to have decline in that school age population, whereas newer neighborhoods tend to have growth. Okay, winding down here. Want to, because I've already planted the seed, talk a little bit more about relative housing affordability and what this might mean for net migration to the states. This is a map we can look at a number of different indicators. This map shows median home prices across counties in the U.S. And again, anything kind of red is the hotter, the more expensive, anything blue, the less expensive. Colorado stands out in that it's got a lot of high cost areas. So again, I'm thinking if you're 20, 30, 40, 50 something or beyond, thinking about where you might want to relocate when it comes to jobs or finding a place to take more bang for your buck, Colorado might not be the place to come. So this is where we have that downside risk to the forecast when it comes to net migration. There are some other risks to the forecast that I do want to highlight: competition for labor with other states, natural disasters. We have displacement of populations either within Colorado or elsewhere that might shift things around. Water availability certainly an element to consider. National population growth matters, so things like immigration policy, geopolitical events that occur elsewhere could result in influx or outflux of population. Economic activity matters in that net migration, at least for Colorado, has largely been tied to the business cycle. And even things like hybrid versus remote work matter, or automation and AI, in that if labor markets are impacted, our populations are often impacted too. So I mentioned this in that we can base our plans very precisely on the forecast that my office comes up with, but important to recognize that the future might bring something different. And on that note, I want to show you something that's new that we just started kind of playing with. And in sharing it, we haven't posted these alternative features on the website, that it's something that we're still kind of seeing kind of where it works, where it falls apart, where people find it useful. I do want to share a couple things with you, in particular about kind of Larimer and Weld County, an alternative scenario, and I'll show you some statewide alternatives as well, just very briefly. So, the baseline, that baseline B 2024, those are our latest and greatest projections. The low net migration scenario would be if you assumed the percentage growth rate for the United States and kind of play that out with our population projections, basically balancing with our net migration estimates. So the births and deaths, we're kind of pulling that aside and instead saying we want to grow consistent with U.S. population. In other words, Larimer and Weld County wouldn't pick up any more of a share of the U.S. population. It stayed constant, growing at whatever the U.S. is growing at. That's your low migration scenario. So if we assume that low migration scenario, which is possible, and it's statewide, is very much possible, we would see Larimer County population very much leveling up. And when it comes to Weld County, quite a bit of leveling, certainly not to the same degree that we see in Larimer County. So this is a bit of, this is sort of a range of possibilities, but not even on the extreme low side, but just something that's plausible. Here, showing a couple of additional population projections, just to kind of, again, give you a feel for some alternative futures. Baseline at the top are the latest and greatest. That low net migration scenario there is sort of the teal color, if you will. Again, if we just assume that Colorado doesn't pick up any additional share of the U.S. population, it just matches the U.S. population, very much a leveling off. We could see that in the very near future. So I won't, just in the interest of time, go into all of these, but just to say, if you'd like to explore some scenario analysis, it is something that our office is starting to do, just recognizing that the future might look a little different than one kind of baseline population forecast that we put out there. So to help you kind of think through some different plans. All right, here we'd like to kind of dig in a little bit more on what's underlying those scenarios. And just to wrap up, thank you so much for having me tonight. Here's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out with questions anytime. We love doing presentations like this, especially for local governments. They're near and dear to our hearts and our favorites. QR code will take you to our website. I'll note all the data that I have in the slide deck. Really just thinking about the population scenarios is on there. You can download it, play with it, all kinds of things. And if you just like a tour, let us know. We'll show you around. Thank you. And if there's time for questions, happy to answer them.
Yeah, first, you got slides 8 and 9.
8, you wrote them down? 8, 9, those, really?
Go 8. Go 8. So what I'm seeing here is in 2045, I better have 50 nursing homes opened and 15 more. So that's my business mind. I better start. If you go to 9, this is Larimer County. I have to have them open, but I got to start building in Larimer County tomorrow. So I got to get some investors to start looking at funerals. They're trying to get a senior about 2030.
No pun intended.
Yeah, I agree there.
Good. So I'm just looking at the business opportunities.
Way to go.
You've been thinking about that the whole presentation. No.
The big other game.
All right. Any questions? Sorry, Dave. I just wanted to go over everybody.
What if I love your job and hate math? It probably wouldn't work, would it? I love the vision, though. It's amazing.
One of the things I think about in our space that we're dealing with is transportation. And like, when do people, I mean, do we know when people usually give up driving? Is that?
As soon as their kids take your
Take
cars.
your keys. It's probably right around that age mark, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice to sooner. Yeah.
About 78 is, I think, the
And so, like, I think about that when we're planning for transit. I mean, you know,
And there's all parts of it. Yeah. But that's why you do that with those kind of things. I think for purposes of this group, right, transportation planning organization, microtransit and things like the mobility, like what we have, and those are the kind of things that I think.
Other private partnerships with Lyft and Uber. I mean, because a lot of people don't, it's even difficult to get on a bus.
I wonder, so I just talked to you yesterday, they're doing electric VW buses for the senior populations that are driverless. So
That's gonna happen. Yeah, autonomous is gonna take over a lot of that.
Well, my concern would be though, if that's like in their 70s or 80s, and then there is a health concern on this kind of thing, and there's no one on there to be like alerting someone. Like, I think you have to also make sure that they're safe too, not just able to get from point A to point B, but if there's an incident along the way that somebody's there to help take care of the situation as well.
So we need to teach the bot CPR.
Yes. I mean, the mobility program, right? Like when if you're got up and give you the presentation on our I know call in the call center and all the calls that they're getting and the issues that we get calls all the time about how can you connect me to my doctor's appointment? How can you, and we don't have enough people to provide those services. So I do think as an organization, really regionally, we know this is going to be our region. How are you guys coming up with the policies that we need to help implement?
I'm going to be one of the people I'm going to be calling.
Yeah. It's that microtransit bot that's got it.
Someone sooner than
The
later.
true need we have right now, we see it in our call center now. I mean, the mobility team could get up here and go off and just say, these are the issues we're seeing, and we don't have enough providers to provide the rights for our aging population now.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else for Kate? Kate, you always amaze me, but it's a depressing. This is my third time seeing you, so actually, this is, I think you pared this down a lot. This was really nice. This was much better. I mean, your last one was great, but it was like very concise. And I really enjoyed this presentation.
But he just said she went too long last time.
I did not say that. I didn't. No, this was really perfect.
South Korean for great.
Zero, so Colorado's right now about 1.45 when it comes to the total fertility rate. South Korea is 0.75, which is an outlier. Yeah.
Would that be the cost of housing and just the time in careers? Is that what the lower rate?
I think it's a number of different things. In some of the cultural, I read a recent article that was talking about how technology and just sort of reliance on social media or what kind of consumption of social media is even playing into it for younger generations. So then we're really at some other things, yeah. But yeah, unfortunately, the cost of having children certainly for
Certainly, your office tracks things like, or does it? Age of average marriage, age of buying a home, that kind of thing. Because those are dramatically increased.
absolutely, yes.
It's interesting. I went through a percentage calculation of what my salary was when I started in 1991. The young engineer salary today versus the housing prices when I bought and when they bought, it was only 2% difference.
Oh, really?
Oh, 1%. Wow. So housing has always been one of those things. I was 36%, and he was like 38, 40%. He bought. I bought a $69,000 home. He bought a $450,000. So it's not my experience. Well, some people have bigger tanks. Stay within the tank.
There we go, because like my son is 26 and just bought his first home, and it's double what I paid for mine, just 15 years.
No, not double. I'm not saying the price of the home. You're saying income to rate, monthly rate versus your outlay.
Engineering is an outlier. I'd say so, because engineering is different. It costs the salary of an engineer has a kept base.
So what's that then? So
The world engineer company.
Can you do this on your own?
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming up. To not being online.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go on to action items 2026 comments received. You guys are going to get rid of me. That's it. Unless there's a coup. I don't want to do it anymore. So let's open it up. Right now, our vice chair is Commissioner Stevens. I
nominate Kristen Stevens for chair.
I'll second.
We got a first and a second. Any discussion?
Kristen, do you want to?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
I've been on this board for over 6 years, so that feels like it might be fun.
All right. Let's do it.
Excuse me, is there anyone else?
But thank you.
We have one nomination.
Nominations? Move nominations cease and we elect Kristen Stevens for acclamation.
Okay. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You will be getting this gavel as of next meeting.
Thank you.
You tried to give it to you before you were elected.
What's your name? Not everything I said should be crossed off. All right, so nominations for vice chair. Any
Nominations,
second?
aye. Okay, I'll second that.
What'd you say?
Or-
No,
yeah.
first and second.
Both sides.
All right. Close nominations. Anybody else? Closing, done.
Move to close nominations and nominate, or elect Liz Knight by acclamation.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Sucker. Well, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Oh, yeah, you're trying to find it.
Take that.
It's where you get your feet wet. And then you get thrown in the big boy chair, big girl chair, whatever you want to call it, big chair. It is. It is. Just don't blow the budget. All righty, we'll move on to item 16. Thank you, guys. That was really easy. No range passenger rail district board member resolution 2025-28, vice resolution 25. Minutes.
Do you want a quick overview? So we have reviewed the terms, and passenger rail sent us our previous resolutions that were adopted by the council. The terms did not align with apparently what the legislative bill said that we had to do and what foreign passenger rail had identified. So a couple of things. You guys have, I guess I would say, a couple decisions to make. So the term that expires December 31st, 2025 is currently filled by Councilwoman Canonico. And and then the other position that we're required to do that term is currently filled by John Mallow, and that term expires in 2027. So looking at the rules and what the legislative bill allows, you can be a current sitting or a former elected official for those terms. And I think really as a council, what you need to decide tonight, one is what your position with Canonico's term, what you want to do with that, and just know that we essentially have to fill. The bill says that the North Front Range elects 2 representatives to sit on the Academic. So it's
What are the qualifications of those representatives? Is Front Range Passenger Rail lined after bylaws as far as the qualifications of the city?
elected official or former.
Or former, okay.
So it can be a former elected official too. And at the last meeting, as you know, Tricia did express wanting to stay on, and she's put in a lot of hard work. You'll see in the letter that was included in the handouts, the Front Range Passenger Rail did also express, even though her term was coming up in 2025, her efforts that she has participated on the Front Range Passenger Rail for being qualified to stay on for another term. They are 4-year terms. And then I believe John Gallo also expressed wanting to stay on and complete his, finish out his 2-year term for 2027. So as a council, essentially, we just need some direction on what you guys would like to do with the current term that's expiring at the end of this month.
And as I said last meeting, I would be really honored to stay on. If they're trying to get on the ballot, you'll see an update with the PR board. There was a really big push. They just adopted a ballot access measure, what we're working towards, and it's going to be a really heavy lift for board members. It's not just showing up for occasional meetings, it's putting together a lot of engagement pieces within the community, building coalitions, putting on town hall, and it's really being active. And I'm prepared that work, I am also prepared to come every month and speak, give you an update and take any input from this board to bring back to the district board. I just really feel very invested in making sure that this gets on the ballot and it's acceptable, because it's not going to just be a win for their county, it's going to be a win for the entire region. Heard you won't have to pay any of it, and take advantage of it and not pop on to I-25, but I just really want to see us be successful with our ballot measure and moving it forward in 2026, because I think if we aren't on the ballot in 2026, that's really a public trust issue in that, it's joint service now with RTD. We never made this northern suburb whole with the stations that were promised with Fast Track, and so that's part of this with FRPR. And I think if we don't get on the 2026 ballot and show proof of concept, it's going to be really difficult to get on the 2028 ballot and be successful. So I'm got time, and I'm really willing to work hard. And another piece that I would say right now for Larimer County, there's 2 incoming NPO members that are here tonight that might be interested in doing this spot. And if this board wanted me to just be on for a year to get us through the ballot and allow others to be part of that board who aren't here tonight to speak, I would be open to doing that as well.
So the question that you're asking, Elizabeth, is, and I have no problem, Tricia, I have no problem, John, is tradition, are we reappointing Tricia for another 4-year term? Is that what it is?
That's what we're deciding, yes.
Oh, okay. But is that the bylaws of FRPR? I mean, if she expires,
You can appoint as a council whoever you want to represent the North Front Range at the Front Range Passenger Rail.
Gotcha. Okay. And John's term is really just continuation until the end of 2027.
And the reason his is included too is, again, I have a resolution that was adopted by the council that didn't match what Front Range Passenger Rail had as his term. So I think we're just trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone with, how you guys want to handle this, and then making sure that the terms are corrected.
So, resolution.
I just, it isn't unusual for a person, for 2 members to not be on this board and serve, as representatives of this board. So I would say that that's slightly unusual. I mean, it clearly is allowed, but there's also that sort of fairness of somebody coming onto this board and being like, oh, you can't serve in that role because 2 people who used to be on this board are serving in that role. So is there a fairness issue to people that are coming into these new roles to not be able to do it?
By bylaws, do they have to serve on this board? It's who just appoints.
They have to be current elected officials or former elected officials represented on the North Front Range.
Okay.
So to your point, you don't have to be a current state North Front Range council member.
But you would have had to be on this board at some point.
You as a council are required to provide 2 representatives to speak and represent on behalf of the North Front Range Council.
Okay.
And then just appointing to a new term that lasts how many years? 4 years?
4 years. And is that changeable? Like Tricia said, if in a year somebody else comes on and they really want to be a part of that, even though we appoint for 4 years, can we change that somewhere between there, or is
That
that?
individual resigns. I would imagine that's the offense are prerogative.
And I would be fine if that was the case. I would just really love to see this through to the ballot, and then if that's what this board wanted, I would be open to time.
It doesn't mention it there, but so I'm, obviously I'm not here to spoke to. If and I agree with the commissioner here too, it does feel a little weird having to. I have a little bit more faith in someone being a current member, because at least we could have a discussion where Tricia, we would be kind of basing this on So my thoughts are, is there a way that if someone is not representing the council, even though I think you would, that the council can remove them?
I mean,
Like a rogue person. I'm just saying this in general with no intention that you do that. Because it's very much expert in architecture. Right? It's not good for right now. I hope to change that and have a secondary stop on this, but they're not even responding to my emails, which is a whole other mess. So I just want to make sure that our voice or some representation that this is not good for all of Winter County is on there. And if it does start going rogue, I could talk to the planning council and we could take action and have it removed. I would think that this, I don't know how this works, but I think that the planning council would have the final say in that. I don't know how that's even addressed in there.
Stand to reason. You can see the bylaws. I don't know, yeah.
I'm just saying, if people stop, because like, I'll tell you, I had a situation on a former, when I was city council member, of a leading city council member who's like, I know this field so much, I'm going to do this. But that person never came and talked to our board, even though they said they were going to. So it was hard for us to get information about what was happening on this other board to come back to us. And so it's not that I don't trust these people. I'm just saying that, I mean, yeah, and so like, is there a mechanism if we're not feeling like the representation is what we want it to be, or that we're not hearing back? I mean, do we have any recourse? And then I also, I mean, I do, you know, if we're bringing in someone new from Fort Collins or Loveland, you know, are they going to say, hey, wait a minute, I would like to be on that board, and you're reappointing people who used to be on this board? I mean, I don't know, how would any of us feel about that? I just want to play devil's advocate here while we think about this, because this is not a person that's no longer bound to this board in any kind of way.
That's what I think.
Any other comments?
I would say that I think coming on to the board is a lot to take in. I've been trying to talk to council, to new members, to see who wants to come on. I'm not hearing much interest. Join the video, shocking. I know, but I think that coming on as a new member, and you know, everyone who's coming on to our council also has jobs, and so I offer that, and you know, Girl Scout honor. I would leave if they would, if you all would want me to. I can promise you that. I think I'm a person of my word. But I would say I think right now that would be a lot to take on. I offer to whoever takes it on that I'm willing to be a mentor to them, and talk to them and help get them up to speed with NPO, and I can do the same from my pastor as well. Again, it's really, well, your emails are making it to me, but if you're sending them.
No, they're going to the chair. And then he just stops. Chrissy started responding after she left. But,
Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, a couple different things. I'm kind of with Tricia if it's a little this body not to have a current official representing them. I understand. I would not be hurt by that. And I see the ins and outs of it. But I also wanted to say that you got two very experienced people that want to stay on board for the benefit of you folks. In Passenger Rail, we're representing all of you. I'm not representing Loveland by itself. I'm representing all of you. So, trust me, if I get the feeling that I'm not wanted per se, I will resign the next day. It's okay.
You know, it's not a matter of not wanting it. It's just, and it is a long time commitment. Like, okay, Tricia's, you would be signing up for a term that lasted how many years?
49.
So for 4 years, you're going to come back to NPO every month and then report to us?
Well, she said, so the ballot initiative.
I mean, I do have to reach out and that's what.
So, and that's my thought is if, and I will be completely candid, in fact, that I'm not supporting this. You guys know that. I don't have any surprise. But if you would be our support of it, Little County's out of it, so I don't know who we have dogging this on. But if you were indeed supportive of the initiative, why would you want to put inexperienced members on in the pivotal year?
Well,
Is my point, you know? I think we got some experienced members here.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you could put, I mean, Bill and I are also from Lamar County, and we could be on that board, and we could probably get up to speed pretty quickly and be able to do that too. That's just, I mean, I'm not saying that you might have to put the level in the house. Whatever the board wants to, I just, I want to make sure that we're getting a report every month. I want to make sure that there's some back and forth on that if they're not serving on the board. And so if this is with it, I'm not going to oppose it.
I'm gonna do something really quick. We have our new Loveland mayor on the call, Patrick McFall. Are you there, Patrick?
Looks like he's in London.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and someday when you get here, you can introduce everybody. We'll introduce everybody else.
Well, so I'm Pat McFall. I am the mayor. I'm the new mayor of Loveland. I've been listening to this a little bit, and I'm listening to the aspect of right now. I'm drinking from a fire hose coming in. I have some knowledge of the Front Range NPO just because of some of the stuff I've used as far as Dango and everything else getting in there. I like the aspect of allowing folks that have the knowledge there, at least to help us break it in. I have full faith and confidence in John Mallow in and of itself, and I don't have an issue with John being there. Matter of fact, my whole goal was no matter what, I'm using John as my sounding board as I bring myself up to speed on this. You can't take away historical knowledge. Although there are those times, even now with council, I have brand new council members coming in that aren't aware of what's going on, and they're going to have to come up to speed. It just depends on how much the organization is willing to take a hit to bring somebody new up to speed, is kind of how I look at it. So if we've got that opportunity to keep somebody there that can pass on that knowledge and bring it forward, so it's not so hard, I'm for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to meet you in person. I hear good things.
I'm a character.
Congratulations, condolences. I don't know what to give you.
I will take both.
Hey, all cities have their own problems.
I think at the end of the day, I support this. Of course, I got my frustrations with Berthoud, but I support both. I think you guys do great at what you do. I would just make a note, or it would be Berthoud's appeal, that one of these town halls be in Berthoud. And they just got to take some heat from me and others on my board. Not that a town hall would be Berthoud joining Loveland for theirs. I do want to look South Base in the eyes. He's lied to me. So I think he needs to account for that. So I would, I would be supportive with that caveat.
If I may, Chair, throw another wrinkle into this. I don't know who's got the charter with them, but we're all appointed and have to be approved by the state senate.
Yep.
In order to get rid of us, 2/3 of the state senate has to agree to.
No,
I'm just
the
saying.
1101 changed it. I think the MPOs do not have to go to the Senate.
That's right. Yeah, we did that before we left.
And
Yeah.
that's
So
also-
our representatives do not have to be approved. If they're nominated by a governor or a private citizen.
A few months ago, I
Is it saying that you get 2/3 of that Senate to agree on anything?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna,
Is there a remedy?
I'm
Did
gonna,
we get to the remedy as to if they're not
Yeah.
performing at the level of the expectation of this group, that we can?
We'll send Johnny's cousin out to
Yeah.
find him.
well, I was gonna mention that. There's a few Italians that might be interested. So what I would say is before we go down that path, we've had a lot of discussion on it, and I'm gonna bring that a little bit to a close and say, is there anybody on this board from Larimer County, Loveland or Fort Collins, Larimer County, that is willing or has a desire to sit on the board? That's the first and foremost I think we have to do. And if there's not, then we go to the next step of going back to our previous conversation. Is there anybody that wants to nominate or step up and take this wonderful position?
I mean, I would take that position, but if the board wants to keep the people on who are on, then I don't want to stand in the way of it.
Now, Now, I'm gonna bring up a second option, is we have two that are not currently gonna be on the board. We could, and this is not, I'm not picking winners or losers, but if somebody on the board wants it, we keep one with the experience that's been a part of it, and if somebody else comes in, then we gotta choose which one moves forward. But there's an option to keep one of the existing and somebody else that sits on the board. There's that option there too. Not get rid of them both, not keep them both, but there's also an option if we feel that it's better to have somebody that does represent the board, sitting on the board with one of them. Then we could do a vote, a silent vote, right down, and then we would then pick the one that's gonna stay on board. Unless one of them step away and say, I'll give it to the other, that's up to them, but. That's the other.
Back to the bylaws, if that's even possible for us to remove something.
I would think somebody would have to resign. Somebody, like John's in his current term, I would think he'd have to officially resign for you to appoint his seat. But you have to make a decision on Councilwoman Canonico's position because her term expires at the end of this month. So for sure, you have to make a decision on that.
So I threw a couple of different options out there. I'm just trying to give
Another,
choice.
just a comment. It makes it harder without the new members being here because you don't even know if they have any interest.
Well, we had the mayor from Loveland. He spoke.
Right, and he said experience and he's drinking from a fire hose.
Yep.
So he's gonna be pretty busy. I think that the real question, I think Mayor Matt hit the nail on the head, which is what are our options if we're unhappy? If we say, okay, go forward, do we have an option to remove?
I
mean, that's,
You know, I'm kind of with Tricia, if the board wants me replaced, I'll step aside on Saturday.
And I trust the integrity of both.
yeah, and so.
Tricia and John. If we're mad at you, we're gonna say we're gonna mad at you, you go step down, right? All right, there you go, that's fine.
Yeah, and I guess what goes with that too is it's different than bringing in two new people that we haven't, I mean, not only do they not have experience, but we don't have experience with them
Yeah,
either.
the track record, right?
And so, like, my track record with Tricia is that she comes to meetings. And so if we even just say through the next ballot initiative, Tricia comes to meetings, so far her track record's pretty good on that.
And there's a
New
virtual
person-
option, you don't have to
Yeah.
be here, yeah.
I do think we select this board from what I remember, I haven't read it in a while, when I was on, we select the person. Now, if the person steps off, then we have to appoint somebody new. When Weld County was out, there's no reason for Weld County me to be sitting on it, so I stepped out, and I think Will, your term is up, and we appointed you two. So, I think we can actually, this board they represent this board. So the chair can call for a motion, we can call for a motion to, a resolution and a motion to remove somebody off the front ridge passenger.
And tonight, we just have to do Tricia because
I
she's
want to
in.
do both and get it,
True up the resolution.
drew up the resolution and get the front range, us tied back to the front range. So we
Okay.
got to do both tonight.
Got it, okay.
So right now, what I would say, I take a motion.
Well, let's fill in the dots on your resolution here. So, the blanks you got hereby appoints, I would put the
John
top
is-
one, John Mallow.
Yeah, John's at the top
But
one.
what's the width? Loveland. You're not moving, all right?
No.
All right.
Unless you guys want me to.
Trish Canonico?
I don't think the technicality, this is a good point. I would just say with the NPO.
Yeah.
Yeah, with, yeah,
Because
NFRMPO.
he's not representing,
Gotcha.
he's with the MPO, he's representing the MPO.
And
Now,
Trish
if
Canonico.
they moved outside the MPO boundaries.
They would have to resign their seat. Or we would have to make a motion to remove them and then find a replacement.
But that does mean you can leave Loveland if you want, you just can't leave the area.
Yeah, you can move to Greeley.
Come to Bernie.
Mr. Chair.
Well, no, it's
No.
Weld County, it's not Weld County, Weld County.
Oh, yeah, you're screwed.
Moving to the nursing homes that John.
I'm gonna be opening some nursing homes in Laramie County. But anyway, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, placing the names of John Mallow with the North Front Range NPO in the first slot, with a term to expire December 31, 2027, and Tricia Canonico with the North Front Range NPO, term to expire December 31, 2029. Fill out the blanks that way. I would move that we approve resolution number 2025-28 of the North Front Range Transportation and Air Quality Planning Council approving NFRMPO representatives to the Front Range Passenger Rail District Board of Directors.
Go got a motion?
Mr. Chair, can I make an amendment to, I don't know if this is appropriate or not.
Friendly amendment?
Yes, absolutely. It just.
Or you can ask him to make it.
This is okay, so it's up to you. I don't know if this is even appropriate, but that a town hall be hosted in Berthoud.
It's not one aware of.
I appreciate your passion, Will, but I don't think we have the authority, at least in the confines of this resolution, to
These two could go pound the table for you.
Would you do that?
Well,
Okay.
we will try our hardest to get that done. I don't see any reason why we can't.
Okay, as long as there's a push to do that, I'd appreciate it.
They're planning for over 40 town halls between now and July.
So we want to have a motion.
Thank you.
I need a second before we can have
Chair, I'll second that.
discussion.
I'll second
Okay,
that.
we got a second. Little bit of parliamentary control here.
No, I'm just being a little rat. I'm just
Why are
trying
you
to get my
starting
way.
now, for crying out loud? You're almost done.
I was gonna pound it. So we got a first, we got a second. Any further discussion? All right, no further discussion. All in favor with an aye that we maintain John for the first position, 27, Tricia for the second position of 29. Caveat, not in the resolution, but Tricia said after the election, if it was requested by somebody else on the board, but if Mayor McFallon decided he wanted to be, then she would step down. So we have a first, we have a second. All in favor with an aye?
Yes,
Aye.
aye.
All opposed, same sign? Done, we're moving on. Congratulations, you crazy people. All right, discussion item 17. 2022-2026 MPO targets for safety performance measures. Oh my God, every year. Where's I put in an initiative and like, wasn't it last year to get the safety data from all the communities detached so we can start driving true safety numbers from our,
CDOT has a great dashboard. Have you not been on it?
Jesus, they're always behind a year or two.
Oh, no, it's current. They're getting, now it's, I heard the presentation today.
Uh-huh.
They're getting, the data's going in from DOR. It's uploaded within 24 hours. It's accurate if you go to the dashboard.
Okay,
Somebody from CDOT, yes, thank you.
Yes, it's, yeah.
can I run safety analysis on the numbers?
Yes, but the information has to be put by, what was it? It was the DOR.
It's DOR, so they're taking,
Dead
they're
on
uploading.
arrival?
No, that's DOA.
Dead
Well,
on right.
schooling.
Rival, yeah. Oh.
All right, I'm not gonna bring it up, but anyway, go ahead, sorry.
No, you're good. So my name's Michaela. I'm a staff member at the North Front Range MPO, and we're going to be talking about the targets for safety performance measures. This is something that we have to set every single year. This is my second time getting to present on this. But before we dig into the targets, we're going to do a probably very quick run through of a statewide versus regional crash data analysis. I know we're a little behind on time, so this might be quite a data jump pretty quickly. First, we're going to look at the statewide fatalities. For 2 years now, we've started to see a decline in those fatalities. For our region, this is flipped to our MPO boundary. We are still year over year seeing an increase since 2021. For the state, for serious injuries, they've seen 1 year of decline. And then for our MPO, we also saw 1 year of decline. And then this is looking at both the fatalities and the serious injuries. They're just stacked on top of each other to get a better idea of, if we add those together, what do they look like? For the state, that has gone down the past year. And then for us, if we look at both fatalities and serious injuries, that has gone down since the year prior. And then we're also going to look at the non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries for the state. That has gone down in the past year. And then for the NPO, that has continued to rise for 2 years now. And then I put together for our fatalities, for our serious injuries, and our non-motorized, kind of some common questions that I've gotten in my past presentations. So kind of some, for our NPO, for our fatal crashes, our top, tied for top, crash types are broadside and pedestrian. And then tied for our second most common crash type is approach, turn, and head-on. 93.5% of the time, our fatal crashes happen whenever it's clear outside. The lighting condition is typically, it's dark outside or it's dawn or dusk, so it's a little bit harder to see. Almost 22% of the time, alcohol, marijuana, or other drugs are suspected by at least one of the people involved in the crash. And then for safety restraint, this would be for drivers. Almost 22% of the time, those are not used or improperly used for at least one user.
Question.
Yeah.
Is speed determined and do you have a percentage or speed factor?
I don't have that off the top of my head. For serious injuries, our top crash type is approach turn. Second most common is broadside. Third most common is a crash that involves a cyclist or someone on a motorized bicycle. And then fourth most common is an overturning or a rollover crash. Almost 90% of the time it's clear outside when we have a serious injury crash. Around 40% of the time it's a little bit harder to see outside when one of these crashes occurs. 21.5% of crashes, alcohol, marijuana, or other drugs is suspected, and around 22% of the time, the safety restraint is improperly or not used at all. And then whenever we take a look at our non-motorized fatal and serious injury crashes, these are either split into pedestrian or our bicycle, or motorized bicycle crashes. They lean a little bit more heavily towards pedestrians, at least our past year. 98% of the time it's clear outside. Around 43% of the time it's a little bit harder to see outside. Almost 2% of the time alcohol, marijuana, or other drugs are suspected. And then we are sitting at 0% for the safety restraint. Keep in mind though, for one of these crashes, the focus is on the pedestrian or the cyclist who don't have a seatbelt to use. And then I've highlighted here in 2024 for each of those kind of three categories we're looking at. In red is the top month for each type of crash, with our non-motorized there at the bottom having a tie between two of the months, and then kind of shaded in the yellowish color is the second highest month that we're seeing those types of crashes in our region. So with that information, we're going to move on to the targets themselves. So a little bit about the targets. It includes 5 different targets. These targets are set by state DOTs and NPOs annually. They're based on a 5-year rolling average. That's why you see they're labeled as 2022 to 2026 targets. Targets must be data-driven. We can't just say, you know, next year we're going to have 0 crashes without any sort of reasoning to back that up. And I want to note the NPO has a separate aspirational safety goal. It's our Towards Zero Deaths policy that was adopted by this board in 2020. We have 2 main options for setting targets. We can either support CDOT's targets by agreeing to plan and program projects which contribute to the achievement of CDOT's targets, or we can set regionally specific targets. Real quick, these are the 5 different targets. We have number of fatalities. We have the rate of fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. We have number of serious injuries, the rate of serious injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, and the number of non-motorized fatalities and non-motorized serious injuries. And a little bit on that conversation of going with either statewide versus regional targets. So through 2023, the NPO supported CDOT statewide targets. In 2024 and 2025, the NPO approved our own regional targets instead. So some considerations for you to keep in mind. Setting regionally specific targets provides a more accurate reflection of safety in the North Front Range. The NPO has no set funding for safety-specific projects, which could directly contribute to crash reductions. Quite a few of our NPO communities have a Vision Zero or a safety action plan, complete or in development, which could make them eligible for additional safety funding if that funding continues to be available. There's no financial penalty to the NPO for not achieving or making significant progress towards its targets. The NPO could be penalized administratively via certification reviews for not meeting targets, but again, not a financial penalty, and the NPO can still take care of its day-to-day operations, even if that does come up during certification reviews. And we must adopt either all statewide or all regional targets. We can't mix and match what we want. We have to pick one or the other, either statewide or regional. Just kind of a refresher on the NPO's Towards Zero Death policy. There's a lot within the resolution, but this is kind of the main point of it, is that the board and its member communities agree to work towards eliminating serious injuries and deaths by continuing to prioritize safety in future calls for projects, analyzing all available crash data, integrating Towards Zero Deaths framework in future planning initiatives, providing regionally specific crash data to compare to statewide crash data when possible, and identifying crash types and characteristics which are most prevalent in the region, as well as best practices to mitigate those specific crash types. So this is the first time we've had actual data to see if we met our first regional target that we set back in 2024. For all 5 of the targets that we set in 2024, we did not meet any of them as a region. For what was set in 2024, we used a forecast equation for future crashes in 2023 and 2024, since at the time we did not have that data, and then we used those to average the number of crashes from 2020 to 2024. And then around a month ago, I learned from other NPOs how they set their targets. There are 2 other NPOs in the state that set their own regional targets, and they do it a little bit differently than us, so I just wanted to provide you with that information. So kind of like I was explaining before, they're a 5-year average, so what we do is we've used a forecast equation to predict the next 2 years of crash data based on 10 years of actual crash data that has happened to create that 5-year average for DRCOG. They calculate the number of reductions needed per year to achieve 0 roadway fatalities and serious injuries by 2040 in line with their Vision Zero policy. And whenever I calculated that, that's around 4% reduction for fatalities and 3% reduction in serious injuries per year. And then PACOG, they set a 15% reduction for both fatal and serious injuries from 2023 to 2025, so averaging around 7.5% a year. So I just want to pose this question to this board. If we adopt regional targets again, should we consider a percentage reduction each year instead of using a forecast equation? And that's something that we'll revisit at the end of this presentation, but just keep that in mind as we talk about this. So I also wanted to highlight in our region, these are all of the communities that have some sort of safety or a Vision Zero policy. I do want to note that TIDMIF will begin safety plan development soon, and Loveland will be updating their plan soon.
However, like Loveland has already adopted a policy in 2025. A lot of these are very new to 2025 as well, these policies. So for the targets, option 1 is to support CDOT statewide targets. I've kind of used our light green, light red colors to highlight if the target that is being set this year is higher or lower than the target set last year, to just kind of give us a little bit of frame of reference. So for the state, the fatality and the fatality rate for the target is lower than what was set last year. Our other 3 targets for the state are higher than what was set last year. And then I just want to pose kind of 2 different options for setting regional targets. So we have option number 2, which is how we've done it the past 2 years with using a forecast equation. And so we kind of flip-flop a little bit with the state. Our fatalities and our fatality rate is like a higher number than what we set last year. But the serious injuries and the serious injury rate is a lower number than what we set last year, just based off the forecast equation. And then non-motorized is a higher number. Option 3 here is the same, and what I have done is I have calculated what a 1% reduction per year would look like if we are including 2025 and 2026 as our future years, and then using that. In our 5-year average, I do want to note, 1% is what I calculated just because it was a little bit more conservative of a number than what either our communities or other NPOs are doing, and that is something that could be discussed further. This is just to be used as an example. And then before we kind of dive deeper into what options 2 and 3 look like, I want to take a moment to give you a summary of our November TAC meeting discussion. So what I heard is that safety needs to be prioritized to reduce fatal and serious injury crashes. Regional targets best reflect what is going on in our region, since those are the numbers we have an impact on. TAC said that option 2, which is our regional option with the forecast equation, which is what we've done the past 2 years, is the preferred choice for setting targets right now. However, they are interested in updating the NPO's towards zero death policy before we set targets again a year from now. And this is really to align the policy with the reductions many communities are working towards, whether that be percent reductions, vision 0 in our communities, and this would provide NPO staff and TAC members with guidance on setting targets with option 3 going forward. So taking a look at the NPO fatalities and kind of the forecast equation versus a percent reduction, what the kind of the blackish gray stripes there is what the forecast equation gives us when we give it 10 years of previous data, which is quite a jump, I would say, from like what we've seen the past couple of years to 2025 and 2026, considering we've had now 3 straight years of it going up. Whereas if we did a percent reduction, this is a 1%, it could be further discussed if we go with something else in the future. Could be a little bit more steady of a decline, and again, a lot of our community's policies were adopted in 2025, and making those changes doesn't happen overnight. For serious injuries, the forecast equation is predicting that we will go up for the next 2 years, even though we did see quite a large decrease from 2023 to 2024, whereas a percent reduction could provide us, you know, more clear guidance going forward. And then for non-motorized, I'd say between these 2 options, they're fairly similar, at least with a 1% reduction calculated. And so next steps for the targets, this will go to TAC for recommendation in December, later this month. You all would adopt this in January at your meeting, and the targets are due to CDOT by the end of February. And if this board is open to it, if we were to look at revising the NPO safety policy, staff would work from February through around October with TAC and you all to revise the policy. So I'd like to open this up for discussion. I've got kind of 3 guiding questions here, so feel free to answer one or all of them if you so choose. Number 1 is, do we want to support CDOT statewide targets or set our own regional targets again? If setting regional targets, which option would you like for this year? And number 3, should we explore updating the NPOs towards zero death policy? And again, I have highlighted option number 2 is tax preferred option for this year. And for option 3, we would have a little bit of buffer room if you wanted to go with that option and come back and talk about it more a little bit next month. We could push back our timeline a month. So I'll open this up.
Is there any questions?
I'm curious with the NPOs that did use the percentage methodology, were they more accurate than we were?
This last year was the first time they set it for the NPO that set the 15% reduction over 2 years. So they do not have the actual data yet to see how accurate or not that is. And it's my understanding that they didn't have a policy stating 15% necessarily. That's just what their advisory board and council decided on.
And just the other thing is, we weren't getting good data. We were always 2 years behind.
Right.
That was the whole problem with setting the goal. You didn't know. It was never accurate. You couldn't be precise, accurate, or even close to knowing.
Yeah, but I think maybe if you gave them another year or 2 to get their information, and then we would know.
I've been waiting for
percentage.
30 years, so you've got another year or 2, it ain't gonna hurt me.
But not changing it right away, sticking with the 2, where we don't change it, but we.
Yeah, I think this board was pretty clear that we didn't want to do state, we wanted to keep a regional target. So I think we're all consensus on that, right?
And I think we also said you're not in trouble if you don't hit your goal. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you could get in administrative trouble, but not what financial penalty, what does that mean? Like, no.
I always think this is the most formative thing we do all year. I say we stick with what TAC recommends.
Are you making a motion?
And I would make a motion.
Oh,
Yeah,
discussion. Next month.
That was pretty
You
good.
got
Just my thought, I think we stick with what TAC tells us. And if we truly want to put our money where our mouth is when it comes to safety, then we heavily weight safety in the scoring of our projects.
And by the way, does anybody from CDOT remember Heather's numbers on segment 7 and 8 and the percent of safety improvements we had on that? Wasn't like 60%?
Yeah, it was big.
It would be like, it was like 50, 60%. It was like really pretty high. No one can remember.
It was, as I recall, it was in the 60s.
Yeah. So, and also, which is not in PD 14. I'm not bitter. Safety is important, but congestion relief, we just proved, I think next year we're gonna see a significant reduction.
Yeah.
We've seen 67% on 7 and 8 in 24.
Well, I like Scott's idea of weighting safety, I mean, I think
That's how we can have an
right.
impact.
That's, let's talk about what it looks like to reduce those numbers, not just say we want to reduce those numbers. But I do like that we have that, something towards zero deaths. I mean, I like being, I mean, it just feels right to say that we're really to get to that point, but I agree that, you can't wish it to happen, you have to work
have
for it.
policies that contribute to it.
And
And
this
I think
organization,
we should do a 170B on
179B.
on this one, and eliminate all the idiots from the calculation. Sorry, the background voice.
I'm driving school.
Sorry. So I like it. Everybody, just consensus, so TAC knows and she knows where we're going. We're all ready.
Stick with TAC and let's talk about our formulas when it comes to project work.
How about the policy? Do you want us to revisit the policy on the towards zero deaths?
Yes, I think so, because when you showed all the, regions that were around here, that's what everyone's trying to drive for.
Well, because they all got Safe Streets and Roads for All grants, and they required you to do that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
correct.
I'm not saying that people don't want that, but I'm saying, like,
Trust
there was a reason that everybody did that in the same year, I mean.
Better numbers, so we need it too.
And-
Oh, I'm not saying we don't. I'm
And the
just
thing
saying
that I will
like,
tell you, in
that's why we adopted it.
1992, the FHWA, the federal government, required safety assessments on all projects. Right? We had to do it, no matter what type, if it was resurfacing, if it was maintenance, we had to do a safety analysis. Can you implement safety into every project? It turned into a national standard into 1997 or 98. Right?
Just doing it, I think a safety analysis on projects that are funded makes a lot of sense, but it also would make sense to understand if you have 295 serious injuries, where did those injuries occur? And where could we, do things to change what caused those injuries? You gotta tie it to.
We asked that question last year, and I don't think we've ever gotten the data.
But
we
That was
exactly
what I
asked.
asked.
But that's the point, if you're gonna spend money
Right.
to try to impact fatalities and injuries, you gotta know what caused them and where they were, and you target those areas.
Totally agree.
CDOT does a lot of that though, right? I mean, they.
They use a standard now. It used to be the weighted hazard index. That has went away.
Safety for performance function.
Yeah, and now it's based on, if you've got to compare it to an interstate, like Interstate 25, what is the national average for types of accidents on that? And you try to reduce it from that, because there's a prediction of what types of accidents will happen. Like, is it off the roads? Is it,
Wildlife
yeah.
interaction,
And that's what you're required for, like, the HSIP grant, right? You have to show that when you're going through that grant funding. I think Michaela and I mean, we've spoke, we feel like maybe as a region, the North Front Range is a little bit behind in safety and evaluating and doing a safety analysis as part of what other areas have been doing this. And a lot of communities have done their own Safe Streets and Roads for All action plans. And so now we're sitting here going, we got to compile everybody's plans and figure out what everybody's doing. And now what do we want to do as a region? So those are some of the discussions that, moving forward, we want to work with TAC on really trying to figure out as a region what our safety plan should look like for our region.
And going back to our air quality, you do not want to spend money on things that's not making a difference.
Right.
Okay, so we're all going with TAC preferred option 2. I'm going to end this, and we're going to look at our policy.
Just real quick, just with looking at the data, it's been a little bit slow for us. We're a very new staff, I will say.
We're not going to blame staff. It's been that way for years. You guys have done more already in the last 5
The
years.
presentation was great.
Yeah, you've done more in the last 5 years.
Great job.
Done more in the last 5 years with the MPO than we've done over the last 20 in some other organizations. So you guys have done a great job. It's not staff.
I
You guys
love
do
the
great.
organization.
I guess we have been putting together what a retail crash dashboard would look like. One of the issues is that we don't have the more recent data still. And we could have an entire other conversation about this. Not all of the communities have that data just ready to give to us without maybe going to PDs to get that data, which is a whole can of worms. And the state does have access to more recent data. Whenever I asked them for it a few months ago, they still gave it with a caveat that, hey, but we get new reports like even months after a crash, even like a serious injury crash, for example, happens. So it's not going to be accurate. So that's the holdup with the more recent data, I will say.
We're caveating all the numbers, let's just.
Good job, thanks. I'll hold you to it.
Good job. Yeah, you did good. Every year it just gets better and better every year. Same discussion, but it gets better. All right, moving on. Item 18. Joshua, is that May or Ma? Sorry, Joshua. I didn't want to mispronounce your name.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Hello, so I'm here, I guess representing transport. My name is Joshua Ma. I'm the grant administrator of transport in Fort Collins. So transport is requesting match relief in the form of a reduced local match down to 25% instead of the 50% for the city's current MMOF grants from both the original award as well as the newly awarded or to be awarded dollars resulting from the state's recent MMOF reconciliation. Citywide budget cuts, declining sales tax revenue, and rising operational costs have significantly constrained available local funding. We're also expecting an updated project cost estimate at the end of the year, anticipated to reflect higher total costs, and Fort Collins not yet fully identified the local match in the previous estimate. Adjusting the local match to 25% will allow the city to keep the project moving forward while managing current financial pressures and maintaining capacity for other critical priorities. Under the local MMOF, or CDOT's local MMOF project program guidelines, applicants such as transport may qualify to use the match rate of the county that they serve, and may request project-specific match reductions with support from the NPO, the TPR, and approval from the Transportation Commission. Similarly, in the original NPO's call for projects, there are different community member match rates for both Fort Collins and Larimer County. We're requesting this reduction because the majority of the transit station funded by these grants is located almost exclusively in Larimer County, which has an adopted match rate of 25%. And to use the county's match rate since over 90% of the project is located outside of Fort Collins city limits. Another note is that these MMO funds will be used exclusively for the transit station as the CDOT's faster matching funds deemed the roundabout eligible for the project. So if you see this map here, the yellow shaded section is the city of Fort Collins city limits. That northwest quadrant of Overland and Elizabeth is Larimer County. The transit station, or I guess the cyan and blue shaded section here is what the city plans to annex into the city's jurisdiction. And then there's a transit station there, almost entirely in Larimer County. So this request is consistent with recent CDOT Main Transit Enterprise decisions granting Fort Collins match relief under the same MMOF guidelines for both the SB 230 formula program as well as the capital call, which has since been approved. A favorable decision by the Planning Council on this request would help the city move closer to meeting its match requirement and position the city to advance its construction more quickly. A small, probably irrelevant note is that we're already amending this existing IGA with the new MMOF funds. So administratively, it would just be convenient as well. I'm happy to take any questions or comments here.
Is this to serve, campus west, I mean, whatever that western campus is called? Parkville campus?
Oh, yes.
Campus,
Yeah, that is the transit station, that will serve that campus.
That'll serve that campus.
Work?
I'm good.
Thank you.
And we're voting next month on that? Is this-
Yeah, they're just consensus discussion today.
That works.
Yeah, so the ask is to go from 50% to 25%, and we guys agree next month that to reduce it, the match relief to 25%, then it gets forwarded to Transportation Commission for their approval.
Is there anybody in here that has any heartburn or angst?
Where does the money come from? It's not funds that are controlled by the MPO. These are MMOF funds, and we're simply a stamp of approval as they go on and make the true pitch with TC.
Correct, so instead of Fort Collins having to match a 50% MMOF, you're saying that you support them only having to match a 25% MMOF.
Doesn't cost this group anything. Hell yeah, go for it.
I think it can all work for different communities and for
Different projects.
Larimer is a 25%, so the request is matching what Larimer
Okay.
does.
Cool, I'm fine.
All right, anybody? Good. So you guys have enough from us? We're good? All right, we're moving on.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Council report, item number 19. Cecil.
Yes, this month, the Transportation Commission and CTIO will both be meeting remotely, and we will be doing an executive session for an update on the negotiations that are continuing with the North Rail project with Burlington Northern. We'll get an update on those negotiations this month. It'll be a very short meeting, 2 hours in the afternoon after we've seen that presentation. So not a lot that we can do damage with at that particular point in time, hopefully. The big issues are still the 10-year plan. We're working through the 10-year plan. The TC reviewed regions 3 and 5 at our November meeting, and things are moving forward with that. And then 1, 2, and 4 will be reviewed in January by the TC. There will be a 1-month public comment after the TC has reviewed the entire plan during the month of February, and then the TC is expected to approve the 10-year plan in March. The anticipated fund projects to be discussed, we've already started hearing plenty of public comment. I want to thank those of you that made public comment at our last meeting, even though neither of those projects were part of 3 and 5. They're really part of 1 and into 4 a little bit. And that's the I-25 North project, which is finishing, I think I mentioned last time. It finishes all the safety in segments 2 and 3A, finishes 3B and segment 4. And then the 270 project. Along with that, in December, the CTIO board will be looking at a financial plan for both I-25 and I-270. And we can't get a full financial plan, but we will at least get a good idea as to whether we'll be able to support both of those projects.
Are they unsolicited projects, or did you guys solicit? Is it the?
They're not out there yet.
Oh, so you're putting it together to see if you want to go out or solicit it, okay?
Yeah.
Thank
And what we're doing is in December, Johnny, is we're looking at financial plan to see if but there's still some things that'll have to happen, and what CTIO will basically be saying is that we want both of these projects on the 10-year plan, because 184 required us to align with CDOT's 10-year plan. And that we think we've got the financial wherewithal to be able to support those projects. I-25 will probably be a little easier to determine because we have a more recent toll revenue study. I-270, that toll revenue study is about 4 or 5 years old. So we'll have to do a toll revenue study to make sure that we've got the financial wherewithal to be able to do that. But one of the key things that I think has moved these projects forward is the fact that we're able to now bond up to 49% of the projects, whereas before it was only 33%. So that really gives us the ability to move these projects forward faster, in essence. So the CTIO will be looking at both of those projects in quite a bit of depth here in December. And then we'll take, once we've looked at that, then we'll take some kind of action in January to see, to give TC direction as to what we are willing to do.
Well, I'm hearing some positive feedback from the executive director's house that there's some possibilities.
Yes, you are. I think the other thing as part of the 10-year plan is that that the continuation of putting a concerted effort on rural roads is going to continue over the next. Actually, looks like in my opinion, pretty good money during the first 4 years of that 10-year plan to help bring some of these rural roads back to
additional investment above RPP there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's probably going to the asset program, not RPP.
Yeah, you're right.
They ain't gonna give you any more money.
No.
How do you know it's that?
But it'll be 28.
I'm always asking for money.
28, 29.
Yeah.
Is what Heather said today.
Yeah.
That's when
28, 29.
Region 4 will actually get the money for that, won't be until fiscal year 28, 29.
So I think there's good news as from my perspective. I think there's good news moving along, and on both of the highway projects. But there's the rural roads is another one, and I just think that we're going to have to be very, very wary of what happens with all of the budgetary stuff that's coming down the road over the next 2 years, quite frankly. So
The nice part about it is they can't touch HUTF or federal dollars, so we're good there.
no, you're right.
Good. All righty.
And
Any
I think we
questions?
took the biggest cut in the.
You did. On safety.
Yeah.
So just want to point that out.
So I think it won't be quite as hard cuts. Won't be taking both cheeks just one.
Thank you. Any questions for Cecil?
I'm throwing that on you. Yeah, that's good.
All right.
I did.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well done, as normal. Number 20, stack written. You want to say anything? You good?
No, there wasn't anything, so.
Oh, no meeting. All right, easy one.
Yeah.
Colorado Transportation Investment Office, written. Front Range Passenger Rail are two newly elected. Go ahead, Tricia, you.
So in the last month's meeting, we were negotiating contracts for relational organizing, digital engagement, town hall production, management, government affairs, increasing level data analysis. So everyone was on board with moving those forward. And there was also an amendment to the primary station locations. So this will now include the northern suburbs that weren't part of the original station locations, and maybe one day Berthoud. But that includes Louisville, Westminster, and NFRMPO. Thank you, John. We also adopted the district's 2026 ballot access plan. And by formally adopting that, that was a condition for CDOT to secure a $3 million pledge from them for the district. That will help keep us funded. There were some issues there. John, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll just say this, it was the first meeting we had with General Manager Pace. And I'm sure there's several people in the room that know him. He hit the road running. There's 27 pages of a presentation for a 100-page ballot preparation program that he put together, like overnight. And so he's running pretty quick. That infusion, that $3 million, really helped a lot. That's going to go towards operations and some of these building blocks we need to do from a town hall type of thing. So I think we're in good hands. He's got big plans and he's moving fast. So I'll just say that, which is needed. If we're going to get something valid on 26th, which we don't, I guess the good news, if we don't get everything ready by 26, it won't go to waste. It'll still be good through 27. So we won't waste any time. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Look forward to continued updates.
Oh, there's actually a positive thing, but I don't think you need to come in for these. I think you could do these remote. If we have questions, we could bring you in. Unless you want to come in, I don't think you need to come just for a report on that.
I want to see their smiling faces.
Okay, never mind.
Next time.
Look forward to seeing you next month.
Tonight, but you just said that she.
January's virtual.
Next month, we'll all
I'm going to be here with you guys. I haven't missed a meeting in 4 years, so I don't plan on it.
January's virtual. I think that's
It's
sort of
on,
crappy.
in big bold letters on the.
No, I
next
think
page.
that's sort of crappy for Commissioner's first one. Someone don't want to host it. What the
We
hell?
want to come to your house, here we come.
But if you come to my house, we're having whiskey at my house. It's not going to be dry.
Nobody offered them.
I would host, but do you want that?
I mean, we ask the communities every year who wants to host, and nobody took January, so I just made the call, we were making it remote.
That's all right. All right.
You don't know if the weather's gonna be.
Host, council members.
We're running a little late, I'll try to be quick. Tim continues to invest in our transportation network and has made great strides over the past year to improve local and regional travel options. We completed the first phase of Timoth Parkway and north-south 4-lane arterial with bike lanes and shared use paths. And we'll continue the corridor next year by extending Timoth Parkway to the north and adding a roundabout at County Road 5 and Bus Grove, along with designing, widening, and bridge improvements on County Road 5 south of Harmony. On Harmony, we're upgrading our traffic signal system with new detection controllers and fibers so we can better coordinate signals and respond quickly to issues. We also received federal Safety Streets for All grant to prepare a townwide safety action plan, which will kick off in January 26. We'll continue our regional partnerships in 26 with the study of the I-25 Harmony interchange and Harmony corridor, and funds have already been allocated for that. This effort will improve safety and reliability on the critical east-west route and will outline a vision for the corridor, including short, intermediate, and long-term improvements at that interchange. And then I think I mentioned this at the last meeting. Finally, voters approved funding for a new recreation center near Timoth Parkway in Old Town, and we're excited to move that project forward. This facility will be a major new asset for the community and will be closely tied to our work on safe walking, biking, and driving connections in and around Old Town. And hopefully we can host you there, maybe in 2028. If we're lucky. And that's it for
Wonderful.
Thank you.
All righty. So now that we're through the council reports, item 24 is executive session. I would look for a motion to go into executive session.
I move that this board goes into executive session to consider personnel matters pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes 24-6-4024F regarding the annual evaluation of the executive director.
No, you're doing it right. I just wondered if you wanted it bigger.
And not involving any specific employee who has requested discussion of the matter in open session, any member of this body or any elected official, the appointment of any person to fill an office in this body or of an elected official or personnel policies.
Got a first, got a second? I would then like to ask everybody to leave the room. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Sorry. Now I ask everybody to leave the room.